Hello everybody, it's the Left-Handed Lady coming at you today with our February plan with me. And we're going to do something fun and easy this week, bringing it back to what February and Valentine's Day used to mean back when we were in elementary school or even high school, sending Valentines to our friends and those cute little candy hearts. So we're starting out with our cover page. I've got a pink Tombow marker. I'm using mostly pinks, a purpley toned pink, and then a red for this month's spread. Going in and coloring the envelope on this letter to the left. Now, as you may know, with Tombow brush pens, they do get darker with the more you overlap them, and I liked that darker hue, so I am going over twice on these lines just to give it a little bit more of a saturated color. And on the cover page for February, I'm going in with this little bit of a peachier toned pink for the envelope. Same concept, going in the same direction, kind of overlapping, just giving it a little bit more of a saturated color. This is very simple. Anybody with a ruler and some colors can make this design. I wanted to go back to the basics for this month and do something very simple. So I'm taking that red Tombow and I'm just making a little splotch. I kind of wanted to mimic a wax seal, and I'm using that sharper end on the Tombow marker to go over again, just to show that there's like an indentation or a raised portion to that seal. Now I'm going in with my Sharpie fine liner and my ruler and just tracing over those sketch lines to make the creases and folds of the envelope stand out a little more. As you can tell, my Sharpie fine liner was running out and I haven't gone to the store to buy new ones, so I switched to my actual Sharpie pen, which is the actual Sharpie ink, so it bleeds a little bit, not so much on the 160 GSM paper, but you need to be careful when you're using these. I use it very quickly, don't hold down on the paper very long, and you'll have minimal bleed. But at the time it was the one I grabbed and it worked really well on top of that heavy Tombow lining. Now for our candy heart portion, I have these little cutouts that are all around my spread right now, and you could do these simply by cutting out a bunch of hearts on paper, but this month I decided I really wanted to paint some watercolor paper, some scrap piece that I had out of my pad, and I'm going to mix up some purples, some pinks, and then a red. And I'm just going to basically wash those over the paper completely just to give it a little bit of color. And then I'm going to be using my Cricut to cut out the hearts. Now, you do not have to do this. You could just use some pink paper or some black paper or whatever color you wanted your hearts to be and simply hand cut them out, or even use a die cut press, or like one of the hole punchers that gives you hearts, or simply just draw them on there. I just really was craving using like a multicolored heart, and I didn't want to paint watercolor into my journal this week, so I decided to go ahead and cut out these hearts. So like I said, I'm just swiping those all over the page. No really rhyme or reason there. I just wanted a lot of color, a lot of saturation, but also to keep it in that same color scheme as the markers. So this is my piece, and I measured it out and put it into my Cricut with all of the hearts, as many hearts as I could fit on there so that I have them for the weeks. And I simply just cut it using my Cricut skills. I know that some of y'all will have no idea how to use this machine and that this will be very foreign to you. If you would like me to do a video on how I use my Cricut, I would love to share that with y'all, but that's a little bit for the next time. This does not have to be as advanced as it is when I'm doing this. You could simply just draw them. I was just being a little extra this month. But as you can tell, it just cuts out hearts, and they're sticking to that little sticky mat, so I had to take my camera off and scrape them off by hand. But that gave me quite a few hearts so that I'll have enough for the weekly spreads to come. So I'm just using my Elmer's glue stick. It's handy dandy. I always have it in my toolbox, my journal box really. It actually is the toolbox though. And I am putting 3 hearts on and then 4 below to do Feb for February and 2021 underneath. Now I'm going to be placing them kind of all around the page just to give it a little bit of like, this is your desktop and you've got candy hearts and letters all over it, like we did in elementary school. I don't know why I was feeling this vibe, but I really liked the way it turned out, and it was super simple. So I went ahead and sketched out what I wanted to write with pen on there with pencil, just so that I can make sure that my letters were proper and centered. And I went around with like the common phrases that I could remember that were on those little candy hearts that we used to get as kids. But you could really put anything on there. You could put things that you love or things that remind you of February. And then our quote for this month is, "How you love yourself is how you teach others to love you," which I really want to live by. Self-love is something that we should all be focusing on, especially right now with how hard times are in the world, and I think that this is a good quote to live by this month. I'm going in with my darkest, like, it's like a hot pink Tombow marker and the fine tip to write out that quote, and then I'm going back in with that Sharpie liner to write on all of these hearts. Now later you'll see I went in with my gold watercolor paint, but you could leave these just with the writing on them, or you could even do like a pink writing on them and it might stand out better. But you know me and my watercolors, I have to add it. I just love the way it adds a little sparkle to the page. So I am using this pearly color that is in this watercolor palette I have. I just really liked the sheen and the tone that it added to the page. It really worked well with all of my theme colors this month. On the camera it seems like you can't really see it, but in person, because I wrote in black behind it, it really pops. With my lighting and the camera angle, you can't see it as well, but just believe me, it looks pretty good. But as I said before, you do not have to add any kind of paint on top of this. You could use a gel pen that's glittery, or even just one of your Tombow markers that you're using in your spread. I believe I'm using a 0.2 brush on this. I will leave the supplies down in the description box, but you'll want, anytime you're doing small letters like that, you're going to want the finest brush you can find, but it needs some stiffness to it. in order to be able to control where you're putting it. Now, as I was outlining this heart inside of the letter, I really liked the way it looked, and I was half tempted to go back and outline all of them, but I thought that was just a little bit too much, so I restrained and I kept it just like that. Now we're going to move on to our monthly calendar page and our tasks page, as well as our trackers. So I'm doing that same thing with the envelope and the notes inside, using the two colors that I didn't use on the envelopes before. So 2 envelopes on the front, 2 envelopes on the back, all 4 colors being used. So I'm going in and doing my little every other day stripes. I really like this. It's a lot less structured than doing like actual black lines or gridding it out for every day. Plus it keeps it into the color palette. Y'all know the drill. I've done the same kind of layout for the past couple months, and it just works really well, and it's super easy to set up. Now I'm going to be using those little candy hearts for my trackers to list each tracker that I'm keeping track of for the little mini calendars that I'm doing. So I'm going through and outlining all of the envelopes, and then I will outline the little mini calendars. Now this part is the most tedious and the most time-consuming part of this spread. These little calendars are so useful throughout the month, but man, are they the bane of my existence. My hand hurts so bad after filling in all the little numbers and getting these lines, since they are so short, perfectly straight and lined up, is so tedious. But when I'm telling you, they make it so much easier just to have them all right there and to be able to flip back and see, oh, I missed so-and-so days, or I missed this, or wow, I got all 30 days or all month. It's really mood boosting and reassuring to be able to see it all laid out right there in front of you. So I highly recommend, if there's something you want to track, if you're not tracking it weekly on your weekly spreads, then you should track it this way. It just really helps with the simplicity of everything and mood boosting you, because when you do fill them all up, it's a pretty great feeling. Plus, if I do say so myself, because I do the Monday through Sunday setup, I guess it's the European calendar setup, I was so pleased that it's a perfect rectangle this month and there's not like an extra day hanging off or something else there. I don't know, it just was really satisfying to me that it was a perfect rectangle, and it made it a lot easier to power through the carpal tunnel as I was writing all these numbers. So it just goes to show how much I actually use my Sharpie S-Gel Pen, because I have had this probably 3 months now, and it is almost fully running out. It's like I'm shaking it to its last life, but I will definitely be repurchasing these. Actually, as of the time of uploading these, I probably already have repurchased them, just because they are so amazing. They glide on the paper. They are quick drying, they do not smear, and they come in such great line numbers. I mean, the 0.7 is probably my favorite for my daily tasks, but for doing things like this, the 0.5 is perfect. It's small enough that you can get in those little details, but it's not too small to where it looks dainty. So I cannot recommend them enough. I love them, and I'm so happy I found them. So I'm going in and gluing on those little hearts next to each of the calendars so that I can write each item I'm trying to track in each of the calendars. My glue is running out, so I was kind of stretching it to the max this month. I think that I'm going to have a supplies haul in my future. So I'm going in on the envelopes and writing out what they are. And then I misspelt events. Like, how do you do that? I was so mad at myself. But luckily these little hearts were there to fix it. As you can see, I'm like slamming my hands down on the paper. I was so upset. I don't know what I was thinking, what was in my mind, but I could not spell to save my life. So I redid it and over those little hearts, and it ended up working out because I think it turned out really cute because there wasn't any hearts on that left page. Just putting in some super important dates real quick, and I'll fill it out more as we get closer. Then erasing all of my pencil lines, and I'm going to add a little sparkle, and that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go through and add in that pearly iridescent watercolor over top the little hearts and on the envelopes, and call it good. This spread probably took me a total of maybe an hour with cutting out the hearts, so it's super easy and I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. If any of y'all recreate this in any way, just the letters, or maybe use the hearts in something, I'd really love to see it in the comments down below. And that's our spread. Let me know how y'all like it, and if you would do anything different or change anything. I always read your comments and I would happy to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and remember to never stop creating.